Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. This week we are doing something new. We're moving on from the Cricut beginner series and we're doing something that has been highly requested, and that is creating your own SVG files. So if you're kind of new to Cricut and you don't know what an SVG file is, in short, an SVG file, it stands for Scalable Vector Graphic. And what it is it's a multi-layered, multicolored cut file that your Cricut reads to know what to cut out on your machine. So in the case of an SVG file, why they're useful is that it holds the data for multiple layers and multiple colors in one handy file. So you don't have to split up your PNG or your JPEG into all these different ones for all the different things you want to cut out on your machine. It holds all the information for all the layers in one piece, which is super useful because then you can resize, you can edit, you can delete, you can group things together all within one file. So some people like to buy their SVGs on Etsy. Some people like to be in a subscription service like Cricut Access where they get access to a bunch of SVGs. I also have a monthly SVG Club, so if you want to sign up for that, I'll put the link in the description of this video. With that, you get 4 SVGs every month and the commercial licenses for them, which means that you can sell them on a design in your shop. You can't resell just the SVG, but you could put that design on a shirt or a tote bag or something of that nature and sell it in your shop. But my favorite thing to do is create my own SVGs. That's why I have an SVG Club, and maybe you want to create your own SVGs too. So if that's the case, I'm going to show you how. Today is going to be the first in this series of SVG creation, and we're going to talk about the easy way to do it, and that's to create them with Canva. So before we get started, there's a couple things you need for this project. I'm going to go ahead and talk about that. Before we dive right in, let's talk about a couple things you need in order to create your own SVGs using Canva, and the first is you need Canva. You do need Canva Pro to be able to download SVG files, which is the method we're going to be talking about in today's tutorial. So I do want to go ahead and tell you that Canva Pro is $12.99 per month. I think it is a million bazillion % worth it because with Canva, I can create any kind of SVG or design I want with access to their huge Elements library. I have been a long-time Canva fan. I've paid for Pro for 3 years now, and it has always been worth it to me. A few caveats to that is if you are an educator, you can get Canva Pro for free. So do go to their website and sign up as an educator if you want to get free access to Canva Pro. But if you're like me and you need to pay for it, you can use the link in the description of this video and try it out for free for 30 days before you decide if it works for you. Spoiler alert though, you're gonna wanna keep it. So be prepared for that when you sign up for the free trial, but you can do that in the link in my bio if you wanna give it a go and follow along with this video without any financial commitment. The second thing you're gonna need is Inkscape. It's a totally free software that's gonna be your best friend for SVG creation, at least for the second half of what we're gonna be doing today. And I've put the link in the description of this video as well to go download it. So go ahead and download that, get yourself set up on Canva Pro, and then we're gonna get started creating some SVGs today.
Once you get logged into Canva for the first time and you've set up your account, you're gonna see this screen right here, and this is your home screen. There's kind of a lot to take in, so if you've never used Canva before, let me just give you a really quick overview of everything that you're seeing. First, up here in this top menu, we can obviously click Canva or click Home to come back to this screen at any time. Then we also have this templates menu, and this is where Canva stores all their templates for the various types of graphic design projects that they offer. And this is a huge advantage of Canva for beginner designers and beginner creators, is they have pre-made templates for a lot of very commonly used projects, such as presentations, posters, cards, resumes, postcards, t-shirts, YouTube channel art, Instagram posts, etc., etc. And it's gonna automatically size your project to whatever is appropriate for what you're creating. So we're not gonna go into this right now, but this is a great place to kind of go check out all the things that Canva has to offer and just see what those look like. Because as soon as you click on one of these, for instance, if I click on Instagram posts, and it's gonna take me to an Instagram post template, you can see it's got a ton of pre-made templates that I could click on any of these and edit and customize to my liking, whether that's changing the font, colors, pictures, graphics, etc. And you can see that just for Instagram posts, they have over 318,000 templates to choose from. You can filter down here on the left-hand side down to more what you're interested in. And we'll also see that we can look at templates from our design screen as well, which we'll talk about later. But just know this is a great place to start if you're wanting to explore Canva, because you can kind of see the depth and the breadth of what they offer. Also under features, you can see some of the other things they offer besides just graphic design. They are an in-service or an in-house print service, so you can print t-shirts, invitations, mugs, and more through them. You can also get icons, and they have a great free stock photo service that you can use as part of your Canva membership. And they also incorporate with lots of apps, and this is particularly useful if you're using Canva for a presentation or some sort of digital media that you're going to be showing where you might want to have a real-time updated Google Map or something as part of it. So this doesn't really super apply to what we're going to be doing for SVGs, but I do just want you to know that this is here because this shows you really more of what you're getting with your money for Canva Pro if you do decide to go that route. And then additionally, if you want to learn about some of this extra stuff, they do have a little education platform where they can teach you all the different things that they offer and a design school as well. So definitely check all that stuff out. We're not going to go into depth on it right now, but I did just want you to know that it's here. We're going to go back home for the moment, and I am going to show you kind of how I create SVGs in Canva every time. So from this home screen, let's talk about just a couple more things before we dive into creating. This left-hand menu you can see is where it houses your projects, like all your files and folders if you choose to organize that way, projects that have been shared with you, your trash. There's a team option here where you could invite collaborators to work with you. And then they've got some tools down here too where you can connect those apps we talked about a second ago. Through Pro, you can also have a brand kit. I'll show you what that looks like really fast. I have multiple brand kits in here because I use Canva for multiple different things. But here's my general Happy Crafting brand kit. It's where you can put your logos, your brand colors, and your fonts that you like to use. And when we go in to create a design later, you're gonna see that we're gonna have easy access to those things. So that may or may not apply to you, but a fun way to kind of hack your presence online is to use this to create a palette and similar looking items. So if you wanted to use this for Instagram posts, or even if you're just using this for SVGs and you have common colors you like to use and you like things to look cohesive, you could kind of store things in this brand kit for easy access later on, because as you're gonna see when we get into designing, there are a ton of different fonts to choose from and a ton of different colors to choose from. So if you know you're gonna be gravitating towards similar things when you're creating, even if it's not technically your quote unquote brand or you don't have a company, this is still a good place to store those things so you don't have to sift through and find them again later. Canva also has a built-in content planner. I haven't really dove into this very much, but again, I'm just telling you that it's here. It doesn't apply to our creation of SVGs today, but if you decide you want to use Canva Pro, it's nice to know all the different things they offer because it'll really help you get your money's worth. And this is a place where you can directly post to Instagram and Facebook from things you create in Canva. So that is all good to know. You also can star different things down here for easy access. You can see I've done that. But we're not going to get into that today. What we are going to get into is creating SVGs. So back on your homepage, it's going to give you some suggestions for different templates you may want to try out. You can play with those later. You can also see your recent designs are right down here. Here's some of mine. Here's like where I make my YouTube thumbnails and all that kind of stuff. You can also see I make SVGs in here all the time, and that's what we're doing today. So we're going to click on Create a Design up here in the top right. And I always choose t-shirt. Now, you don't have to do that. That's a personal preference for me. You could also type t-shirt right here to make it come up if it's not coming up for you. I do that because when I'm creating with Cricut and I'm creating SVGs, typically the biggest item I would ever want to put it on would be a t-shirt. So I go with the t-shirt design typically because this helps me visualize on my canvas, like this is a t-shirt sized canvas, and this helps me really visualize what my design is going to look like at its largest. Your other option would be to choose custom size down here, and you can either type in a size in pixels or you can use this drop down to select inches. And you could do 12 by 12 is another one I've used from time to time, because especially if you're using the Explore Air 2 or the Maker 2, 12 by 12 is about the biggest that you can create with on your Cricut. So that's another good option if you want to do it that way. And you could click Create New Design and it would pull that up for you. The only thing I will say about doing a custom design like this or a custom size, when we choose 12 by 12, Canva is going to try to figure out what you're creating so it can suggest templates for you over here on the left-hand side. Remember we talked about templates earlier and I said you would be able to see a place where you can look at more templates, and this is that place. So it will suggest for you what it thinks you're creating. And since this is a square canvas, it's gonna give us Instagram templates. And that's not really what we're creating when we're creating SVGs. So when I use t-shirt, my other reason for doing that is because the templates that it will then suggest are t-shirt templates, which usually are SVGs. So the things that it's suggesting here as good starting points are great SVG type files, and that's the other reason why I do that. So now we're here in our canvas. We've kind of talked about templates a little bit, and I really want to dive into the editing features of Canva briefly for the purposes of SVGs. So one thing I want you to keep in mind as I'm talking to you about this is I'm coming from the perspective of you using Canva to create SVGs. So am I going to go into detail about every single thing Canva can do? No. But I am going to give you all the information you need to create SVGs in Canva. So don't think this is a complete tutorial on Canva, but it is a complete tutorial on Canva for SVG creation. So today we're going to start with the basics, and then next week I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into the more specific editing features and more advanced editing features that will really take you to the next level. Before we do that, one thing I want to make sure to say is when you're using Canva to create SVGs, you have to begin with the end in mind. Meaning, our ultimate goal with an SVG is that our Cricut is going to have to be able to cut this out. So we're going to want to avoid anything that has shading, really intricate patterns and designs, overlapping, things like that that are going to make it difficult for our Cricut to cut it out. For instance, let's find one that would be a bad option. Like I'm going to type in nature, and let's see what kind of template it brings up for me. So this one is a great example. Whoops. Actually, that would be fine. Hold on, let's see if we can find a worse one. I want to give you something more specific. Okay, here we go. So, is this beautiful? Yes. Would it make a really fun t-shirt? Yes. Would I want to weed this layer by layer from my Cricut? Absolutely not. And you can see if I kind of start picking apart all the different layers here, we've got this text layer. That would be fine. My Cricut could cut that out. But then this is kind of all one piece. And it's got it, you can tell how many pieces Canva has split this up into by looking at how many colors it has up here. You can see it has 4. So if I cut this out on my Cricut, we'd have like this ice blue layer, we'd have this darker green layer, and then 2 shades of brown. So that'd be 4 different layers our Cricut would be cutting out. But if I zoom in here, you can see Cricut would be cutting out all these little strokes. We'd have to be layering these little green batches on the treetop or on the rooftop here. All these different little sketches right here would be cut out by our Cricut, and we'd be layering that. And that is a total pain. So can you do it? Can you try to do it with your Cricut? Sure, you can try it. Do I recommend it? No. So just keep in mind when you're creating with Canva that you're using elements that have been put into Canva for the purpose of lots of different things, not just SVG creation. So when you're picking out your elements that you want to use on your designs, think about things that your Cricut could feasibly cut out and that you would be happy to weed and layer. So for that reason, I wouldn't be using something like this. So I'm gonna hit the delete key and get rid of that. And then let's look at something that would be a good option. So actually I'm just going to add a new page here. Oops. I'm gonna use this button right here to add a new page. I'm gonna delete that background color so we have a fresh start here, and then I'm gonna click on this one. Perfect example of something that would be a great start for an SVG. We've got our white layer here that would be very easy for our Cricut to cut out. We've got just a circle, some squiggles, and then we have this text that would be cut out in 2 different layers. So this is something that would be a more challenging design on your Cricut, but definitely doable. We've got clean lines. We don't really have a lot of overlapping other than our text right here. Not a lot of sketching kind of appearance, no shading, no photos. Everything is a graphic, everything is an element. And we've got good, clean lines. And those are the things I always try to look for when I'm finding elements and text in Canva, because those are things that I know I can cut out with my Cricut, I can clean them up and use them, and they will make for great projects. So that's the first thing I just wanted to cover, and that also kind of covers our template area here. We used the search feature as well. So let's kind of move on and talk about a couple more things in our beginner section of Canva here, and then I'm going to give you a chance to play with all this stuff before next week when we go more in detail. So we talked about a little bit of the basics. Let's get into some editing features really fast so that we can give you enough tools to work with so you can play with this week before we get more detailed next week. I'm gonna go ahead and drag my mouse over everything on the screen and hit delete, and then I'm gonna click on my background and hit delete again. I'm gonna start with a fresh blank page here, and let's talk about Canva Elements, because to me, this is one of the primary reasons I pay for Canva Pro and why I think it's worth it when you're creating your own SVGs. So I love the templates here, which by the way, if you ever stray away, you can get back to templates by just clicking it up here at the top. I love templates because sometimes it gives me a good starting point. Now, I couldn't sell an SVG that I create with a template because that would be stealing someone else's work, but sometimes it's good for inspiration. It gives me an idea of what I might want to create. And if I'm just creating something for myself and not to resell, it's fun to use these. Like this would make a really fun design here. So I'm gonna get rid of that. That was a lot of layers. That might not have been a fun design. But let's click on the Elements tab because this is amazing. So Canva has a huge resource of elements that you can use to create SVGs, and the general rule of thumb when you're selling SVGs with Canva is as long as you create something new and you don't just simply copy paste a single element and then sell this as your SVG, you can sell these online. There have been like some updates to that policy, so I do encourage you to check it out on your own. Don't just take my word for it. Some people think that you do need to use just free elements if you're going to sell your SVG, so I always do that if I'm going to, because I don't like to toe the line between what's allowed and what's not allowed. So you can know if something's a free element or not by clicking the little 3 dots right here, and it'll tell you right here whether it's a free element or a pro element. So this one would be fine to use in a design that you sold as long as you incorporate it into a larger design that is of your own making, not just simply reselling this one element. Now, back to elements in Canva. So I could click see all under any of these like kind of pre-populated categories it's giving me, but what I like to do is search because usually I have something in mind that I'm interested in doing. So it's about to be summer, so let's just say summer and see kind of what comes up. Now, Elements in Canva incorporates stickers, GIFs, photos, video clips. They have elements of all different kinds, and obviously all of those are not going to be suitable for SVG creation. For instance, I couldn't use this as part of an SVG because it moves, and that's really not what I'm looking for. So one thing you always want to do is click this little filter button right here, and you're going to scroll down and you're going to filter by static. And then you can hit apply filter. So also if you don't want to pay for Canva Pro, you can filter out pro elements by using free only, which we'll do that just to see kind of what we get. But filtering out animated graphics will kind of get you more what you're looking for. Now to filter even further, we don't want photos because obviously this is just a photograph of a beach. I couldn't cut this out with my Cricut. There's way too much. Now, obviously I couldn't cut this out with my Cricut. There's way too much detail here. It's a photograph, so it wouldn't be suitable for having my Cricut cut unless I was doing this as a print to then cut image. So to filter out photos, up here in this menu here, I'm gonna go over to graphics and click on that. Now we're looking at something that we can work with. These are things that would be suitable SVGs for the most part, although we're always still gonna begin with the end in mind and mentally filter out things that are too complex for our Cricut to cut out. But let's say I was creating a summary design and I really like this, so I'm gonna click on that. This would be so cute to cut out, so let's make it a little bit bigger by dragging in the corners here. You can make it bigger and smaller. And then up here is our color menu, so I can change any of these individual colors on the graphic. And you can do that with any element in Canva. It'll come up here with what colors are included, and I can change them individually. So maybe I really don't want this to be green. I would rather it be this blue, and then I like light blue, so we'll keep that. Instead of this orangey color, I'm gonna make it light pink, like it's like a lemonade. And then instead of the pink umbrella, we will do a yellow one. Okay, so I've changed the colors. I've made this my own. We can also double click it to crop. So maybe like you're doing a design where you don't need the bottom half, I can crop it up and hit enter. And now I've got a cropped element. I can hit undo by doing Command Z or by using the undo button up here if I want to change it back. So here we are, we're just quickly going through some editing features for you. We can also flip this horizontally or vertically. And then we can also change, if we had more than one element on this page, we could change the position, forwarding and backward, or the arrangement, some people like to call that. There's also a button right here that can allow you to make it somewhat transparent, but if you are using Canva for creating SVGs, don't ever do this because Cricut does not know how to cut out a partially transparent object. So you won't be using that for SVG creation. Here's some other editing features I just want to run through really fast. If this was for a presentation, I could link this image to a URL. I can also lock it if I want it to stay in place or keep all of its features exactly as they are. Duplicate, and then finally I could trash it right here. So those are some quick editing features for each individual element. Let's go ahead and turn this into a cohesive design so that we can finish our little project here, and then I'm going to give you guys some stuff to work on through the week. So we've got our little jar. We also can upload images. This is just a little quick FYI. You can click this button and upload your own graphics and pictures and elements of anything of that kind to use in your designs. We could also look at their stock photo library, which again, we talked about, not great for SVG creation, but really great for creating mock-ups of your designs like you see here. I'll do a separate video on that later. What we do want to do is add some text to this though. So I'm going to click on text right here. And then you can see once again, Canva is giving us a plethora of templates to choose from. So I could use a template, and we're actually not going to do that this time, but I could. What we're going to do is we are going to create our own text. So I'm going to click add a heading. Notice that these are the headings, subheadings, and body text that I predetermined from my brand kit. And if you have more than one brand kit, you can change that from this drop-down menu. So this is why I was saying it's a good idea to create a brand kit, even if you just find some fonts you love and you want to be able to access them at any time. Once again, I'm going to say it again, begin with the end in mind. Some of these fonts are not great for Cricut. Like if I scroll down here, this one right here, this insert coin, that would be not so fun to cut out with Cricut because it's multicolored and kind of pixelated. Same thing with this one that glows. That would not be very fun to cut out with Cricut because it's not going to know how to read those glows and it's just going to become a problem. So anytime you're picking a font, make sure you're picking something that's really crisp, clean, and has good lines for you to cut out. We are going to make this say chill. Why not? So we're just going to center it here in the center. I can click on this button right here to change the text color. We're going to make it that same light blue. Actually, we're going to make this say sip. Why not? And then I'm going to change the background to something a little bit darker just so I can see what I'm doing a little bit better. Note that whatever color you make the background isn't ultimately going to matter because we just are interested in the SVG, meaning the graphic and the text. But sometimes I like to change the background color just so I can see what I'm doing a little bit better. Other editing features for text are size, which we can change from the corner right here. We can also change it using the plus and minus sign here or by typing in any number. We can also change the font by clicking this drop-down menu and looking at all of Canva's fonts. Or if you want to narrow it down by a style you know you want to use, you might type handwriting. It would help if I spelled it right. And it's going to give you all of the fonts that are handwriting style. So those are a couple ways to change the font. We can also, with some types of fonts, we'll have the option to bold it, italicize it. We can also turn things into a numbered list, change the alignment. We can change the letter spacing. We can also change the line spacing, which is the space between two lines of text if we had two lines of text here. And we can add effects to the text, like curving it is one that I use frequently. But you do need to be careful with some of these effects, such as like lift, echo, splice, or neon, or glitch even, because those are all things that would make this a very challenging SVG for our Cricut to cut out. So make sure you're keeping your text real crisp so that your Cricut can actually work with it. We can also use this 3 ellipses menu here to underline it, change it to all caps or a variety of uppercase and lowercase. Once again, we can change the positioning or the arrangement. And then we can also do all the same features as before, such as transparency, link it, lock it, or duplicate it. This button allows you to copy this style, meaning if I had another piece of text here that was in a similar style, I could use the roller to copy it and it would make them look similar to each other. One thing I do want to note to you is you can see that when I'm moving around my font or my text here, it is going to tell me when I'm vertically aligned and horizontally aligned with the center of the page and with the other elements on the page. So that's really useful when you're creating SVGs. Keep that in mind as you're playing around with it. But really, that covers what I want to talk about in our beginning Canva for SVG creation tutorial. Next week, we're going to go a little bit deeper, talk about a few more nuanced editing features that will really take your designing to the next level. But between now and then, play with all the things we talked about today, make a couple of designs. You can save them in your Canva. It automatically saves, but you can always click File, Save to make sure. And then you can also change the title of your design here to keep everything all organized. So play with it this week, make a couple designs. Next week, we're going to talk about some more nuanced editing features, and we're also going to talk about how you can export your designs to Cricut directly. So I'll see you next week.
Okay, friends, that covers our first part of our Canva for SVG creation series. In the next video, we're gonna dive more into the specific editing features of Canva, like I said. So this week, play with all this beginner stuff that we talked about. Make sure you're comfortable with it, because next week we're gonna go a little deeper. And then after that, we're gonna talk about exporting our SVG files from Canva to Inkscape, where we're gonna clean them up a little bit before they go into Cricut Design Space, which is really gonna save you from a lot of headaches. So by the end of this, you're gonna be able to create SVGs in Canva that you can sell online, use for your own personal use, and more. So I hope that's useful to you. I hope today was useful to you. Play with Canva this week, and I'll see you back here next week.